The 190 countries in Addis are still struggling with whether they want it or not. The civil society organizations have made a very strong case for it. I saw the G77 also endorsed the idea, but I think they're really very far from what the mechanics would look like. But I think one of the things that they are very clear about is that the 30 or so countries that currently control the OECD should not be allowed to continue to dominate the rule-making procedure for global taxation.
Is it possible to move ahead with that idea without the OECD? I mean, in the same way we've seen, for example, for years and years and years, we've tried to get the World Bank and the IMF reformed. That hasn't happened. It's always gone to Congress, and American legislators have killed it over there. And the response we've seen is setting up of things like the new development bank, the Asian Infrastructure Development Bank. Isn't this something we can make progress on without the OECD?
The OECD at the moment is charged with that responsibility. So I guess what you would have to do in that context, or what they will have to discuss, is what would be the relationship of the new body to the OECD once the new body is set up. It seems neater to either expand the membership of the OECD or to delineate more clearly what the roles of the OECD would be going forward if there was a global tax body. And I think that would probably be the way forward, that you'd be able to keep, because I think the North is generally very loath to actually dismantling the OECD.
And that essentially brings us to the question of incentives. I mean, the current system benefits them. Switzerland has built its banking system essentially on that reputation for secrecy and so on and so forth. The UK has tons and tons of money laundered through the BVI, and Isle of Man, Jersey, and so on and so forth. They've got really no incentive to change things, do they? Well,
I mean, in some ways you could argue that, you know, some of the most horrific, I mean, if you want to be very dramatic, I mean, some of the most horrendous atrocities, you know, in terms of economic atrocities globally, like slavery and so on. And at some point, the slave master had no reason to be able to, to let it go. The question is actually, how do you shift global public opinion and the conscience of the world, so that the voters in those countries actually say, no, we don't want this to be the relationship with the North, with the South, particularly because, in a sense, an argument we could make is that some of these tax rules are actually responsible for the level of poverty and the level of, I guess what you'd call kind of resource deficits that you're finding in southern countries. And that if you fix this, then, you know, the old lady and the young folks that contribute regularly for Oxfam and various other international NGOs, that they wouldn't need to do that. And moreover, perhaps, that the governments would need to take a certain percentage of their budget, which is generally shrinking, but that certain budget could actually be spent domestically if they unlocked this, I guess, this set of chains around Africa.